because my daddy was a bus driver. I went to Children's Elementary School in Nashville, Arkansas. In the 6th grade, I didn't know my timetables. So Dr. Wynn, he gave me 3 licks. The next night, I went home and I learned my timetables. I would ask my daddy for a nickel. In those days, a nickel would buy 2 cookies. We didn't have money for pop. And in those days, what we call Kool-Aid now, we got it for a penny. It was called penny drink. A honey bun was 10 cents. Now we pay 65 cents for a honey bun. I started picking cotton at the age of 10. I learned how to cook soup at the age of 10. I borrowed the potatoes, the corn, tomatoes from the guy I was picking cotton from. My daddy would go to Blowers to harvest. And my sister would leave us at home. She didn't know how to cook. The only thing my sister would do is boil some corn and we would have watermelon. I got tired of that, so I learned how to cook. I've been cooking ever since I was 10 years old. I started in the peach orchard when I was 10. We was paid 40 cents an hour. I worked 10 hours a day and I made a whole $4. And I thank the Lord for that. We didn't have tissue paper. We had newspaper. We would do tissue paper like this. We would crumble it up like this so that we could wipe our bottoms after we went to the bathroom.
There you were. There you were.
We didn't have a well. We carried water from a pond. We had to wash our clothes. We didn't have a wash machine. We had what was called a rub-over. And in those days, the girls would take baths first. I have 4 sisters. The girls would take baths first because the guys they were dirty. So the girls had a chance to use the water before them. I started going to school at Lincoln High in the 8th grade. I met my husband, Kattie Flenory. In those days, we couldn't afford to buy a ham and cheese sandwich. We bought a grilled cheese sandwich. We cut it in half. We didn't even have money for a pop. We would get us a pop and put 2 straws in it. We were in love. Alvin was playing basketball. We would have a weenie. They would cut a weenie in half, and they would sell it for 25 cents. We would have pop, Kool-Aid. They sold Kool-Aid for 25 cents. I would holler, "Hey, H, shoot that ball." He didn't care how far he was. Every time I hollered, "Hey, H," he would shoot that ball, whether he made it or not. When Alvin and I got married, we lived off of $66 a week. And we had to make an $88 a month car payment. But we learned how to take 2 car payments, two weeks salary, and make a car payment. And with my grandchildren, I am blessed. Well, my husband and I are blessed. We have 4 beautiful grandchildren. We have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. I say that's a completion with God. And when my grandchildren will come to the country, they do every night. They had to say, "Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take." We will call out names. My children and my grandchildren, they will call out everybody's name that they wanted the Lord to bless. And then we would say, "Amen." And I have some pictures. This is where we came from. From the outhouse to the restroom. From the well, we had dippers. Everybody used the same dipper. We didn't even worry about germs because we didn't know about germs. These is what we had to take a bath in. These are called tubs. We had to take a bath in a number 2 tub. We used a well. We had to draw our water up out the well. Then from the well, they learned how to get a pump. Now look where we are. We use a faucet. We had an ice box. We didn't know anything about refrigerators. This is an ice box. This is what we used to keep our ice in. Now look at our refrigerators. We had to churn our milk to make our butter. These are churns. Now this is where we go to the store and just buy butter. This is the rubber that we had to wash our clothes with. Now we go from the rubber to the washing machine. We had to put our clothes on the clothesline. Now we go from the clothesline to the dryer. This is the smoothing iron that we had to use. Now we go from the smoothing iron to electric iron. Thank the Lord. We had to pick cotton. I picked cotton for 40 cents an hour. 40 cents an hour, I made $4 a day. And was still able to have a little bank account. My daddy made us all, he would only give us 40 cents out of what we made. The rest, we had to put in and start our own bank account. This is a cotton sack. People might not know what a cotton sack is, but this is a cotton sack. This is the rotary telephone. When I was raised up, this was called a party line. Everybody had a number. One person's house was number 1, another person's house was number 2. And you can tell when the phone rang, and if you wanted to listen in on somebody else's business, all you did was pick up the phone. They didn't know you was on the phone. But look, from the rotary phone to the phone. This is how the first cordless phone was. Now, look at our phones now, and look at you all's phones now. This is where we started when they first got the portable phone. This is where we are now. Somebody might not know. These are cucumbers. I had to pick cucumbers. Cucumbers is your pickles. Your pickles and your cha-cha. This is a corn patch where I had to hold a corn. Now you just go in Walmart and buy the corn in a bag. This is the old-fashioned sewing machine where you had to use your foot pedal. Now you just go to Walmart, buy you a sewing machine. You don't even have to do all that.
Yeah, no promo.
Some people might not know. Your milk came from this cow. And when you eat your hamburger came from this cow. Your bacon came from this pig. You might not know that your bacon came from a pig. Your pork chop, that came from a pig.
Ultimate sacrifice.
Your chicken. This is your chicken before they carried it to the processing plant. These are your wings, these were your legs, but that's where your chicken came from. Your antenna. We used to have an antenna for our TV. Somebody would be in the house and they would say, "Hey, can we see?" And you know then that you can see. Your antenna, and look, we went to the satellite. We had this TV where you had to stick an antenna on top of it. Now look at your TV. From this TV, it was a black and white TV. It went from this TV to this TV. Look at the straightening comb. We didn't know anything about a perm. So these are our straightening combs that we had to straighten our hair with. Our lantern. We had to use these lanterns at night because we didn't have electricity. Now look at the fans that we all have up in our house. This is the Kool-Aid that we used to pay a penny for. Now it's 33 cents. This is the wood stove. We used to have a wood stove. I don't have the wood stove. But somebody might not know where your french fries come from. You have to peel these potatoes and cut your french fries up for your potatoes. This is called a jukebox. We used to, a record used to be 10 cents for one and 3 for a quarter. We put it in there and we would dance all night because different people would take different turns playing it. Some black history. This is Mr. Roland Hicks from Hicks Funeral Home. This is Mr. Nathaniel Cheese Holyfield. He was the first black person to work for the Chevrolet place. This is Mr. Andrew Lee Bishop. Mr. Andrew Lee Bishop, he started carrying young men to AAU. And he also worked at Moore Brothers grocery store. And Mr. Andrew Lee carried these guys, which if you look careful, one of them was Alan Flenory, one of them was Coach Johnny Turner, and one of them was Marcel Turner. Mr. Bishop started these boys playing ball at a young age. This is Reverend Major White. He was the first black person to go on the corn court. And he had a newspaper, a black newspaper in Old Saint. This is Mr. Henry C. Yerger. He started the Yerger School. This is Mr. Will Rutherford. He was the principal at Yerger School. This is Mr. Kenneth Mudrew. He was the first black superintendent for the whole public school. This is Miss Cecilia Johnson. She got her GED at the age of 76. She was determined to go to high school. This is Miss Rose Davis. She was the principal at Hopewell Loop. This is Judge Ernest Brown. He served as 120 circuit judge presiding over the Judicial Division of Jefferson and Lincoln County of Pine Bluff. This is Judge Doris Clark Pryor. She served in Indiana. She's a judge. For anybody that knows, this is Miss Linda B. Clark's daughter. This is Johnny Walker. He was a lawyer. He is a lawyer from Hope, Arkansas. This is Mr. Floyd Young. He was the first assistant mayor for the city of Hope, Arkansas. This is Miss Flossie Bishop. Miss Bishop was the first black to work at First National Bank of Hope. Now it's called Farmers Bank. This is Miss Shirley Brown. Miss Shirley Brown was the first black to work at Bancorp South, First National, Bancorp South, Citizen National Bank, which is now Cable. They changed a lot. This is Miss Henrietta Pope. Miss Henrietta Pope was the first black to serve as clerk for Egg City. This is Miss Alame Flenory. Miss Alame Flenory was the first black to work for the Highway Department. This is Mr. Robert Trotter. He was the first black to work for Piggly Wiggly grocery store in the shopping center, A&P, in the shopping center. This is Miss Wanda Coombs. Miss Wanda Coombs was the first black to work at Safeway, which is now Atwood. This is Miss Linda Pondexter Chesterfield. She's the first black to graduate from Henderson College. This is Miss Dorothy Smith. Miss Dorothy was the first black to work for Southwest for the unemployment office. This is Miss Sophia Grace Williams. She was known as Insurance Lady of Hope. This is Miss Hazel Simpson. Miss Hazel Simpson was the first black female to own a barber shop. This is Mr. Dennis Washington. Mr. Dennis Washington was the first black. He had his own karate studio in Hope. And I used to go to his karate studio, but I couldn't control my temper, so I had to quit. This is Talmadge White. This is my dad. He was the first black to work for John Deere in Nashville, Arkansas. This is Mr. Alvin Flenory. Mr. Alvin Flenory was the first black to work for Sears Roebuck of Hope, Arkansas. Roebuck was a black man, so they took the Roebuck off and just started calling it Sears because they didn't want this black man to get credit.
A lot of people don't know that to this day.
This is Mr. Alex Jabbar Flenory, our son. He was the first black to work for John Deere in Hope, which now called United. Dr. Douglas was the first black pediatrician. Dr. Arrington was the first black gynecologist. This is Lady Fatt. Lady Fatt went to BET, Victoria Morrison. Many of y'all might not know it, but she went to BET. And Mr. Alvin Flenory was her sponsor. This is Alvin Flenory, Mr. Kenneth Moore, Robbie Turner, and Miss Dorothy Smith. These guys, they won in an art competition. They won first and second place doing artwork. And this is the artwork that they did. Closing out, this is Dr. Roy Turner. He was one of the greatest principals that anybody could ever have. And he said, every child, every chance, every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Mama Kattie Flenory. Job well done.
I didn't know she had that much. I knew she had some.
Appreciate y'all. Yeah, absolutely. That sets the tone. If that does not set the standard, that's for sure. It's always, like we say, with the title of today's theme for today, and Hempstead County Juneteenth is a celebration of resilience, history, and liberation. As Sister Flenory pointed out, that you know your history, then that helps you to build your strength, helps you to build your resilience to get and stay on the path to liberation. In working through what our theme is, we wanted to and have tied it to the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, which is the organization that was founded by Carter G. Woodson and manages the Black History Museum every year. And so for 2023, their theme was Black Resistance. And Black resistance comes in many forms. When you say resistance, people tend to go to the extreme about militant history. But folks, we've been practicing Black resistance in the Black community when we pursue our education, as Sister Flenory pointed out, when we pursue legislation and politics, as we heard there about Vice Mayor Floyd as Young, as we heard about Major White. We pursue Black resistance when we, as Black Americans, work on expressing ourselves in our full humanity. As we work on expressing our agency, our autonomy, that Black resistance is not always in a militant stand. There's a time and a place perhaps for that. However, your Black resistance is oftentimes just existing. It's thriving in the way that you choose to determine your prosperity. And that's what we want to continue to support and instill in the community, and certainly with those little royalty pageant participants, is supporting them in that foundation of pursuing their Black resistance in their autonomy, their agency in education, in legislation, in any way that they see as best for them to support and continue the legacy that is strong. As I mentioned earlier in the parade, Arkansas actually just on Thursday, June 15th, celebrated its 187th year as a state in the United States. And Hempstead County, however, was founded in 1818. And so we are even older than the state of Arkansas. And in looking at our position in Hempstead County, we were on an important path to Texas, going down to Mexico. And so when those explorers came through, they had black folks with them, people of African descent, and even people of African descent, the people of color, there were freed persons here in Hempstead County. And so as we think about and look at our civic institutions and think about and consider that Hempstead County, black Hempstead Countyans are 27% of the population, is that representation in our quorum court? Is there representation on our school board, in our municipal governments? And if it's not, that means that it's time, past time, for us to step out. And when we think about that 27% engagement in appointments, not just in politics, but in a number of these avenues in businesses, we have some very prominent businesses in Hempstead County. As Sister Flenory was pointing out with Sister Bishop, my mom, do we have those representation on the front lines? Not just in the back room, but on the front lines. And so what we are continuing to do with the resolution that the City of Hope and Hempstead County government passed is to lay a foundation that gives us, as concerned, interested, and engaged black Hempstead Countyans, a foundation to begin to make some demands, to begin to make some expectations of these entities. We always say, you know, it's past time for there to be a first one, but there's got to be, and we've got to make room and make way for there to be others. That means molding, shaping, sometimes for our seasoned citizens and elected officials, maybe time for you to start to mold up some folks to come behind you. Don't continue to accept these appointments when you've got young people, myself, Alan Flenory, you've got folks who are ready to step in the gap. So it's past the baton. But that's what we're about today, is the celebration of history, resilience, and liberation, and we thank you for that. We thank our vendors who are here today. I know that Fulton Shaved Ice, I've seen it with some popular, it's a popular spot, and please support the Dugout. They're a new small business food truck that's open. We've got Princess Nikita. She's also has some awesome wares. We had a fashion show with Princess Nikita for Mother's Day pop-up, which was very popular. I wore one of her, a couple of her outfits yesterday, and hopefully tomorrow. Then we've got Marshall Watson as well. And I want to point out, as far as our black liberation, a key part of black liberation is our economic liberation. And we've had an awesome time being able to identify black-owned businesses in Southwest Arkansas, or who were started in Southwest Arkansas. We've had our photographer, J. Dion Photography, Joyce Spellman. It's awesome to see Big Truck Designs and Printing. Trustin, say hey. Appreciate you, Trustin Alexander. He designed our t-shirt design, our banner. He was an awesome person to work with, and timely, affordable, and quality materials. These aren't just fly-by-night, fade-by-next-year t-shirts. These are some good quality products. And we also had our catering with C&L Catering with Cynthia Hawkins and Nell Ford. They did an awesome job last night, and we greatly appreciate those folks and being able to identify. I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, when businesses say, I don't know where to find them. I don't know who to ask. Well, here you go. We found them because we're in the community. You are the community, and when you're out there in the community, you're able to, quote unquote, find Black-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, when you are in the community. And that's one of the things in trying to consider about these sponsorships is I certainly wanted and invited those folks to come through, because it's not just about the dollars, it's also the personal investment and relationship building. It's not transactional, it's transformational. We're trying to be transformational. So, well, I will turn over the stage, the podium, if you will, to our DJ for a little bit of a family reunion vibe, and hopefully we can get a bit of line dancing before our folks start to dissipate or melt from the day's heat. But I hope that we can get a couple of line dances in. You can't have a Juneteenth, July 4th, a family reunion without a couple of line dances. I'm basic, so I still only know the electric slide. I may try to do Cupid Shuffle, but I'm kind of basic. So we wanted to have another word before turning back over to the DJ. Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot one more announcement tomorrow. Well, Sunday. Actually, Sunday we've got the Juneteenth Royalty Pageant and Fatherhood Recognition here at the Community Center, the Douglas Washington Northside Park Community Center. So dads, uncles, granddads, pawpaws, men in standing, what have you, feel free to come through tomorrow at 12:30 to our program. And like I said, fatherhood recognition and Juneteenth royalty. And then on Monday, the actual Juneteenth, the 170 something since that passage and reading of General Order 3 down in Fulton will be a recognition of Dr. Roy Turner at the Fulton Park, just there on 355, right before the underpass and before you turn onto 195 to head to Washington. That's at 2:30 on Monday, the 19th. So please hold yourselves accordingly, as the seasoned saints would say. Do things decent and in order, and holding yourselves accordingly. So again, tomorrow at 12:30, and then on Monday at 2:30 in Fulton. Good deal. All right, ready to go? All right, and let's